Ooh, a fancy new intro bit. I guess it's time for What Happened on My Universe mode! And we began with Raw, which was in Chicago again. We opened with a tag match as the Conqueror, Curtis Axel, teamed with Daniel Bryan to take on Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose of the Shield. At the start of the match, it seemed like Curtis Axel got under Dean Ambrose's skin, as Ambrose wanted to go on and attack him even after he tagged out. The two teams traded moves, and eventually the Shield would get the advantage when Daniel Bryan missed a moonsault. Seth Rollins then taunted Curtis Axel by using his own finishing move in front of him. Daniel Bryan gained the upper hand once more, putting on the yes lock, and after taking a couple of hits, he gave his out forcefully with his feet, tagging into Curtis Axel, who hit the perfect plex for the victory. Kane challenged Bray Wyatt next, again, but this time Bray Wyatt had something else up his sleeve. Kane, as he was accompanied to the ring by his own version of the Big Red Machine. Kane began the match like the monster he is, but as the match wore on, he began to tire, and Bray would throw him to the outside where he'd be face to face with himself. A German suplex and then Sister Abigail ended the match for Kane. Bray Wyatt victorious once again. Divas action next, and the Divas champion Brie Bella faced up against AJ Lee for the 27,000th time. And this time it was Brie Bella who was on the attack, because she had a tactic. Try and injure AJ by throwing her into the steps several times. It didn't quite work as according to plan. AJ Lee hit in a couple of moves, but she hit a Bella Buster, which AJ kicked out of. She worked on the leg a bit more, and then hit another Bella Buster. This time AJ Lee stayed down. Roman Reigns took on Randy Orton once again, and Reigns was looking for revenge after Orton attacked him in Week 10. It began open, both men hitting big moves. Eventually, Randy Orton hitting his second rope DDT. But, as Reigns was getting up, he reversed Randy's attack and hit a Superman punch. He followed this with a super spear, which made him look super strong, and put Randy Orton down for the count. Main event time, and Brock Lesnar was out to take on Sheamus, but Sheamus decided to come out fighting. Now, despite Sheamus hitting a load of big moves, he wasn't able to keep the Beast Incarnate down, and after going for a powerbomb, Brock Lesnar reversed it into a DDT, and then beat Sheamus down for a bit. Unfortunately for Brock, Sheamus got the advantage back, and he had a few specials left in the tank. In fact, he had so many specials, he would eventually beat Brock Lesnar for the second week in a row with the Celtic Cross. It was main event next, and it was in Nashville, Tennessee, and we had two men who were looking for a win, as Rey Mysterio took on Chris Jericho. In the early going, it was all Rey Mysterio hitting some flashy dives to the outside, but once they were back in the ring, Chris Jericho took control and worked down on Rey Mysterio. As he hit the walls of Jericho, Rey Mysterio was able to break out of it, hit a kick to the back, and then it was 619 time, finishing Jericho with a West Coast pop and getting the victory. With the tag title match at the next pay-per-view pretty much set in stone, CM Punk of Chicago's finest took on the Ultimate Warrior of the Blade Runners to begin the setup. Both men were accompanied by their respective partners, Lex Luger and Sting, and both men were hitting some pretty good offense. It wasn't until the Ultimate Warrior focused his offense on Lex Luger that CM Punk was able to take control and take the victory with a go to sleep.
In the squared circle.
With this finish, it of course means the Ultimate Warrior has been dealt his first defeat in this universe mode, so extra props to CM Punk for that. Batista didn't let us have an entrance for the next match as he took on Shawn Michaels again. And this time, they brawled on the outside, in fact, all the way to the top of the stage, as Batista hit a spinebuster. As they got back in the ring, Shawn Michaels tried to get the advantage back, hitting an inverted atomic drop, but Batista hit the Batista bomb and took the quick victory. Post-match, Batista wanted to send a message to Shawn Michaels, but before he could, Rey Mysterio popped in to save the day. Mr. Perfect and Kevin Nash have had their differences recently, as Mr. Perfect kept getting them accidentally disqualified against Sting and Ultimate Warrior. They took on the New Horsemen this time, just to see if they could still team. So, could they still team? Yes they could, but they weren't guaranteed the victory, as the Horsemen were making it hard for them, including this hot tag, which was followed by a Russian leg sweep. The teams traded blows, including a corner, figure 4 leg lock, and a perfect plex, which Mr. Perfect couldn't take advantage of because he was knackered. He got the tag into Kevin Nash. He'd hit a knockout punch and a jackknife powerbomb to get the victory, meaning they actually won the match and didn't get disqualified. So now we have the main event! And what a main event, as Triple H took on the Rattlesnake Stone Cold Steve Austin. As expected, it was an open match of them brawling on the inside and on the outside. When Triple H took into the top rope, it signalled it was almost the end. Stone Cold got a spinebuster, but was hit by a pedigree for the 1-2-3. Post-match, it was take a time as he signalled he wanted the title. The future was where it was supposed to be, as NXT hailed from Miami, Florida, and we had debuts galore as Bo Dallas and Adrian Neville joined up with Kalisto, Brian Kendrick, Hideo Itami and Mojo Rawley to decide the final place in the NXT title tournament semi-finals, and Mojo Rawley was quickly dispatched by Bo Dallas. Unfortunately for Bo though, he was next out as Hideo Itami and Adrian Neville teamed up to get rid of him. Hideo Itami and Adrian Neville then battled and hit big moves before Adrian Neville was able to dump him out. Brian Kendrick, who was for some reason still wearing his jacket, showed little dominance against both remaining men until him and Adrian Neville teamed up against Kalisto to hit a few big moves. It was all a ruse though, as Adrian Neville would then throw Brian Kendrick out, leaving him and Kalisto as the final two. Kalisto was able to hit a throw and an enziguri, but it was all in vain as a reverse Frankenstein, a red arrow, and finally a dropkick was able to win the match for Adrian Neville. And this was my match of the week! Titus O'Neil wanted to continue his reign of dominance against the debuting Adam Rose, and unlike Adrian Neville, Adam Rose didn't really hit anything and was absolutely destroyed by Titus O'Neil. He eventually put him out of his misery with the Clash of the Titus and took the win. It was Fool's Count Anywhere as Tim Bicer took on Corey Graves once again, and Corey Graves enticed him to the outside, so they began out there. The match began with a bit of a brawl, but ended up with a bit of a submission from Corey Graves. It then went into a bit of chaos as some weapons entered the fray, and both men got some licks in with a baseball bat. We thought the match was over when Corey Graves hit this signature move, but back in the ring, Vicer was able to hit an F5 and a brogue kick and take the victory. More gimmick matches next, and it was a tables match as Kevin Steen took on Rusev for the Hardcore Championship. Rusev was quickly on the attack in this match, using weapons, beating him down with a baseball bat and a table, and then eventually getting back in the ring and kicking him in the face. He set up the table and then DDT'd him onto the corner so hard that it shattered the table and gave him the victory. And we had another Falls Count Anywhere match as Bam Bam Bigelow took on Fit Finlay, and Bigelow wanted to shake his hand. He didn't though, and kicked him in the gut. He then threw him into a chair in the corner and took full advantage of the entire match. The series of moves Bigelow used to finish Finlay was devastating. First a brainbuster, then the greetings from Asbury Park, then another brainbuster, this time on the outside onto a chair, and then a diving headbutt onto the chair, which may have finished Finlay off, but it turned Bigelow heel. As always, we end the week with SmackDown, and it was in Phoenix, Arizona. We began the show with The Miz taking on Fandango, and both men needed a win, as there's rumours of relegation to NXT coming up soon. This short, fun match ended when Miz hit the skull-crushing finale to finale the match and take the victory. In SmackDown's second match, Jimmy Uso was trying to get that elusive win when he took on Darren Young. But there were problems in the Uso camp, as Jimmy and Jay had a little argument on the outside, before Jay made him realise that he needs to go back in the ring. A little bit later, back in the ring, Jey Uso was on the apron, grabbing Darren Young and giving Jimmy a free hit. This disorientated Darren Young, and despite him hitting a couple of moves, Jimmy Uso was on the attack and would finish him with a Samoan drop and finally get a victory on his own by cheating. Number 1 contender for the world title, Big Show took on Goldust next with Alberto Del Rio and commentary. Big Show hit one move and then went to the outside and told Alberto Del Rio to fuck off. Back in the ring, Goldust was able to get a little bit of control because of this, but not much, and it began to open up a bit before Big Show would eventually take full control and do the usual end of match destroying, finishing him with the knockout punch. Despite Big Show's warning, Alberto Del Rio didn't stray too far as the post-match replay showed him to be standing on stage for the entire match. Next up, Cesaro took on Mark Henry, with Dolph Ziggler doing a Alberto Del Rio and sitting at ringside on commentary. Cesaro didn't really care though, and he just wanted to show what he could do. So instead of telling Dolph Ziggler to fuck off, Cesaro instead sent a message, showing off pure strength in throwing about the former world champion like a ragdoll. The world's strongest man would get his comeback, hitting a slam and a junkyard dog style headbutt, but it was to no use as Cesaro hit a huge European uppercut and was victorious. In our final main event of the week, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, the tag team champions, took on the Brotherhood again, with yet again no cutscenes or storyline, except for the fact that Goldust had already wrestled once again, for the second time in 3 weeks. There was a difference between this and the last time Goldust did double duty. The Brotherhood actually got some offense in, and Cody was a bit more on his game. Not enough though, as Rowan would hit his finisher, smack Goldust, and take the victory. So a few questions from the last week. How will Brock Lesnar react to losing 2 weeks in a row to Sheamus? Will The Undertaker get his title shot against Triple H? Don't you think it's about time someone won the NXT title tournament? Can Finlay get revenge from the dirty heel Bam Bam Bigelow? And why doesn't the Big Show like Alberto Del Rio being at ringside? Find out next time on What Happened on My Universe Mode! Like and subscribe.